everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I am your host, aspiring author Jonathan Taylor. My unofficial How to Write month continues with a look at Regency romance. By that I mean not just fictional works that would take place within the early 19th century in England, but also more contemporary works that where at least one of the parties involved in the main relationship is wealthy enough to lead a lifestyle that is similar to that of typical Regency characters. Before I go too deep into the actual topic, there are 3 disclaimers I want to get out of the way first. Namely, while a lot of this genre is focused on couples, I will use language that will include polyamorous relationships as well, just because I think it's a nice thing to do. Second of all, I already made a video about how to write relationships in general. I'll link that right over there. So, if you've already seen that, you could consider this video as a genre-specific supplemental. And if you haven't seen that last one, then go ahead and watch that. You might enjoy it. And last but not least of these disclaimers, a lot of what I'm about to tell you is based on things I would expect, or on things I think represent unfulfilled potential within the genre. So it is possible that you've, for whatever reason, decided that you would not touch upon any of the topics I'm about to present, which is fine, but try to keep the others in mind at least, please. That being said, let's get into the actual video. I got 4 recommendations I want to talk to you about. Firstly, make the setting grimy. A lot of Regency romances focus a lot more on the elegance and the glamour and the wish fulfillment. It's about being whisked away as a reader in a lap of relative luxury. There's nothing wrong with that. It is perfectly within your right to create escapist romances. However, in doing so, you risk misrepresenting the time, the place, and maybe even the customs of the time and place that you are writing about. What I think would be more interesting and more era-appropriate would be to create an immediate and visceral contrast between the artifice and shine, glamour that this genre has, and that the characters bring upon themselves, with their more immediate and day-to-day living conditions. I don't necessarily want to read explicit descriptions of bodily excretions, but I want the living conditions of the characters to be brought more to the forefront. I want to read about siblings who have to share rooms or beds. I want to read about wet nurses who have to wash babies in sinks. I want to read more about childhood ailments and how the entire family has to come together to, help one of their own recover, as well as maintain their family. Give me more of that. Give me more of that personal backstory. Give me more of that. More descriptions that make this setting a bit more vivid. Make me care about these characters. Make me understand what kind of struggles they're going through and what they are like under pressure. Speaking of, number 2. Give me an idea of who these characters are before you actually bring them together. I mentioned already in my last video that whatever characters happen to have a relationship, they need to be fully fleshed out and independent characters, irrespective of the relationship that you want to highlight between them. And I think that very much holds true here. One thing you could do in this setting, however, that you can't really do in others, is to use those relationships to build up the the setting and the stakes. As an example, let's say that there is a younger daughter or sister within a family who has to work as an office clerk somewhere in order to help maintain the family estate. From this, from this particular writing exercise, you can then start to conceive and start answering certain questions, such as, well, why is the family estate in peril? What does this younger daughter or sister find out at her job that might change the way the information within your setting flows? Or does she meet an important secondary character at her place of work? These are the kinds of exercises that you could plausibly create with pretty much every single character within the setting, because every single character is connected to a whole bunch of people. And from that whole bunch of people, at least one or two are basically guaranteed to have roles and duties that that are relevant to the plot itself. So, exploring that network is something that I think will make a world of difference for your setting. Thirdly, diversify your cast. And by diversify your cast, I don't mean introduce people of color in places where they've been historically excluded from, though you can totally do that. I mean more introduce people from more diverse backgrounds and with more diverse outlooks into your story. Have the landed gentry interact with nouveau riche and other social clamors, because after all, this was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. People were starting to gain prestige and go up in class through work in industry. So it only makes sense that people from different backgrounds would interact. And even among characters with the same background, there are still plenty of differences in terms of outlook and in terms of temperament that you could play around with. Similarly, you can also play a bit around with the moral framework of the characters involved. I.e., don't be afraid to bring in characters who are morally ambiguous or even outright evil. Byron, who is the namesake for the Byronic hero trope, who pretty much lived and came to prominence around the Regency time frame, was a very messed up guy who did a bunch of very messed up things. Yet throughout all of that, he was still a very popular dandy poet. Partly because he knew how to get good publicity, partly because he was able to run away from the consequences of his deeds. So try to explore that. Try to explore how someone from within your setting can only get away with doing, could potentially get away with doing messed up things. Explore how these behaviors that modern audiences might find abhorrent could emerge, could thrive, or could be policed within such a setting. And the fourth and final point I want to mention over the course of this video is a question. How do the characters themselves interact with the setting? This is admittedly a very complicated point, which is why it's the last point I want to bring up. There are obvious differences in romantic expectations between the Regency era and the modern era, but what I'm talking about more is the potential for self-realization and contrasted with the means towards self-realizations that are at your character's disposal. For example, are there characters who just want to be married and will sacrifice whatever it takes in order to actually get married? Or are there characters who have certain expectations going into a marriage and will call off an engagement or any kind of romantic engagement if said expectations aren't met? Are there any characters who are in any way indifferent or maybe even outright hostile to the idea of marriage? Is there a reason for that? Do you have any characters who are trans or furries but don't realize that is an option? Or in general, do these characters have any kind of expectation or goal that the current setting either outright forbids or makes unnecessarily difficult? Because, well, like I said, you will have if you follow my other points, you will have characters with different motivations and different backstories, different different would ever have different goals they want to reach, and different ways of thinking, different ways of looking out for means to achieve that goal, to achieve their goals. And because of that, and these differences will reflect in the ways they interact with each other, and in how they change their goals and change their expectations, change their viewpoints. And a lot of the goals they might set for themselves could come in contrast with their own social milieu, be it friends, family, or the general society. Keep in mind that the goals you set for your characters still need to be physically possible within the frame of your setting. The obstacles that your characters would face when it comes to reaching those goals should either match or mirror the ones that real people have faced throughout history, at least in plausible or believable ways, and the ways they handle these hurdles, how they try to overcome them, should be grounded in the ways you've established their their thinking, or their general methodology of how they overall go through life. So yeah, this is why this is the most complex point of this entire video. It's basically a way for me to tell you to look at your entire story while focusing on what the goals of it are, and how exactly you're pushing each character towards the individual goal you assign to them, or to whatever individual goals these characters have assigned to themselves. What can you come up with, and what does it and where does it bring you? Do your best to explore that. And yeah, that was the video. Thank you very much for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, and maybe share it wherever you think it'll be most well received. If you have anything you'd like to add, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when the next video comes out, then I suggest you go ahead and subscribe. Ideally, you could also ring the bell, or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.